Have you ever stood in a crowded room and felt utterly alone? Not the loneliness of absence, but the solitude of seeing what others cannot. The walls they've built around their hearts, the stories they whisper to themselves to make sense of a world that isn't really there. This is the paradox of awakening, to touch the infinite, only to find yourself stranded in a sea of those still dreaming. Enlightenment, they call it. A word heavy with promise, yet few speak of its quiet cousin, isolation. To see through the facade of the ego is to step out of the cave, only to realize you can never return. The drawings on the wall no longer hold meaning. The chatter of its prisoners, friends, family, strangers, becomes a distant echo. You want to shake them, to grab them and tell them that the answers they seek are right in front of them, hidden behind the veil of I. But they cling to their shadows, mistaking them for salvation. The ego is a masterful illusionist. It dresses itself in titles, beliefs, expectations, trauma, and wounds, convincing us that this costume is who we truly are. Buddhism calls it anatta, or no self. A reminder that the I we defend so fiercely is as empty as a shadow. Carl Jung saw this too, the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. But what happens when the mask falls away and you're left standing naked in a room full of actors? Suddenly, conversations feel like an act in a play that you can't escape. You hear the unspoken fears in a colleague's boast, the loneliness in a lover's anger. You see the child trembling beneath the CEO's suit, the desperation in the influencer's curated smile. It's all there, raw and trembling, but no one else seems to notice. The Buddha called this dukkha, the suffering born of delusion. Yet to name it doesn't lessen the ache. If anything, it deepens it. How do you share a truth that can't be spoken, only felt? Philosophers have long danced with this tension. Across traditions, the sages whisper the same secret. To awaken is to lose the world. Jesus says in John 12:24, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit." The Hindu Advaita Vedanta speaks of Maya, the cosmic illusion. Lao Tzu warns, the sage wears coarse clothes but carries jade within. The Stoics built an inner citadel, a fortress of mind untouched by external chaos. But these teachings rarely linger on the grief of leaving others behind. Even the Buddha's noble truths, life is suffering, suffering arises from attachment. Offer little solace when your child asks why you're different now, or when old friends slip away, uneasy with your silence. So where does this leave the awakened one, suspended between worlds like the bodhisattva who vows to stay until all beings are free? But here's the secret the mystics won't admit. Compassion burns brightest in those who know the ache of separation. The Zen monk who chops wood and carries water, not despite the illusion, but within it. Even in more recent times, those who have had an ego-dissolving psychedelic experience have testimonies that describe the impossible reintegration back into the old self, but at the same time feel an indescribable level of empathy for those still trapped in the illusion. Perhaps this is the middle way the Buddha taught, not clinging to transcendence nor drowning in samsara, the endless cycle of life, but abiding in the tension. The Sufi poet Hafez writes, "I am a hole in a flute that the Christ breath moves through. Listen to this music." You are both the instrument and the song, the solitude and the connection, the knower and the known. Ram Dass says we are all just walking each other home. But what if home is nowhere and everywhere all at once? What if the ones still asleep are not the others, but reflections of our own unfinished edges? The ego, ever cunning, might even weave a new story. I am the awakened one. This is also a trap, a delusion, a trick to keep you separate from the truth. And so you walk, not as a saint or a sage, but as a witness. The isolation doesn't vanish, it deepens, stretches, until it becomes the very air you breathe. You learn to love the dreamers, not in spite of their illusions, but because they have them. For you too were once a prisoner, clutching shadows like lifelines. Even the aloneness you feel is an illusion. It implies that we are separate from other people and our environments, when the truth is that we are all subjective manifestations of a singularity. If you have awakened to the truth and have become, quote, enlightened, I urge you reflect on this. And remember, our egos must constantly be questioned, pruned, and refined. They are a tool to navigate this life, not who we are.